Happy Thursday. Hopefully, everyone's having an awesome day. And if you've been paying attention to the news, if you've been on Twitter, you probably heard the Portland, not the Portland, the Parkland shooter's verdict. Well, I guess it's not really a verdict. It's the what the jury came to punish him with. And I don't really have an answer because I could see multiple things here. I can see multiple things. I can see, does he really deserve to be put down? Should we give him the benefit of putting him down? And also, the death penalty, I think, is kind of cruel and unhumane because you sit in prison for anywhere between 5, 8 years, sometimes even up to 20 years, depending on if you could appeal or not appeal. But you have that long term sentence, and then finally you're put down. So I do have issues with the death penalty as it stands. I do think that it should be reformed. And I do think in cases like the Parkland shooter, there's a case to be made that there should be no appeals. And most of the time, the appeals is just going through the process, making sure everything was done properly. There wasn't any evidence that was overlooked or not entered. Was there any biases that was preventing any type of sentencing or any type of doubt of guilt? But in this case, there was no doubt of guilt. There was no doubt of guilt. He pleaded guilty, didn't even put up a fight in court, other than the lawyer doing what the lawyer does is to get the best outcome for their client. Now, according to Fox News, the jury recommends the Parkland school shooter monster gets life in prison, not death penalty. The monster carried out a massacre at Parkland's Major Stoneman Douglas High School on Valentine's Day 2018. The Broward County, Florida jury recommends Thursday that the Parkland shooter monster should get life in prison but not the death penalty in the deaths of 17 people. The jury failed to reach a unanimous verdict on the recommendation for the death penalty on all counts. Circuit Judge Elizabeth Shearer set sentencing for November 1st when the victims' impact statements will be delivered. The verdict came on the second day of deliberation, 15 minutes after the jury arrived to examine the gun the monster used. Yeah, we're just going to close that. He doesn't need to get any more notoriety. The monster, 24, pleaded guilty last year to the murders of 14 students and 3 staff members at the Parkland Major Stoneman Douglas High School on February 14th, 2018, the date that he said he picked so the school would never celebrate Valentine's Day again. The monster fired volleys from an AR-15 style semi-automatic down the hallways into the classrooms for about 7 minutes, returning to those who laid wounded and killed them. The monster said he purchased the rifle almost exactly a year before the shooting and began to seriously plan it out 7 months in advance. My question is, why was he able to purchase a gun? I don't think he was 18. I think he was 15. I don't know. Let's see here. It's 2022. He's 24. Yeah, he probably was 18. Huh, interesting. At one point, the deliberation jurors came back to the courtroom and have testimony over 2 doctors that read back to him the mental state of the monster. During the 3-month penalty trial, determined that his sentence, prosecutors played security videos of the shooting and showed gruesome crime scenes and autopsies photos. Teachers and students testified about seeing other students and staff killed, while parents and spouses gave emotional support. The monster lead attorney Melissa McNeil and her team argued that the birth mother heavily drinking during the pregnancy with him with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. His adoptive mother could not cope with the severe mental and emotional deficits which never been properly treated, McNeil told juries, according to the Associated Press. Like I said, I don't really have one way or the other. This says, how dare they blame the strategy on, I guess, that fetal alcohol. My wife and I intentionally adopted and raised a wonderful son from his birth, born with FOS. With many challenges that comes with the territory, he's now 23 and thriving. Was it an easy journey? Absolutely not, but was still a journey filled with many lessons learned: love, compassion, advocacy, patience, and perseverance. This strategy is the result of external factors involving parental dysfunction that can exist in any family. Fast children deserve to be treated and nurtured just as much as any other child. This one says, by Bless America, this is why we have so many crimes today. No one's being punished properly. I mean, he's going to serve life in prison. He's going to die in prison. No one's being punished for what they do. You get to live the rest of your life not wondering if you ever have a place to sleep or food to eat. You're guaranteed that. For some, that's a horrible thing. He planned and carried this out without any thought of how valuable a person's life is. I realize he has problems, and a lot of them were from the choices his mother's made, but does not change the fact that those people will never get to grow old. Those parents will not be able to see them get married or graduate college. In a case like this, where there is no doubt as to whether they're guilty or not, quick death sentence is very appropriate. And that's my issue. Even if he was sentenced to death, he'll probably be, at best, 5 years in prison. At best, 5 years. Sometimes they spend 20 years going through the appeal process. But I don't think they'd be able to appeal since he pleaded guilty. But it doesn't really matter. I mean, of course, you got Ron Sanchez from Twitter. The appropriate sentence for the massacre of 17 innocent people is death penalty. The jury had a single holdout refuse to authorize the capital sentence, representing a miscarriage of justice. My prayers are with the Parkland family. I'm hearing that it's 3 people that held out. Jury has recommended life in prison without parole for the monster who killed 17 people in 2018. Parkland, Florida school. Ashley Charter says, the gunman who killed 17 people at Douglas High School in Parkland was given a life sentence in prison without possibility of parole. The decision comes 4 years after the deadliest U.S. mass shooting has ever gone to trial. And of course, if this is true, any jury that must be investigated, this is not how justice should be served. Unfortunately, it is how justice is served. Yes, there is justice we want to see happen. There is sentencing we want to see happen. And when we don't see it happen, we cry foul. Does that mean that we have to just scrap the whole thing? I mean, do we say that this isn't a justified ruling because we don't agree with it? I mean, I don't know. I don't really have an answer. Was this justice? He's off the street. My opinion of the death penalty, it gets people off the street. It doesn't send a message. Sending him to life in prison doesn't send a message for others. It's to get him off the street. We deemed him a danger to society, so we removed the danger from society. And that's how I feel about the death penalty too. We removed the threat from society, whether it's life in prison, because that doesn't really send a message either. It's just we get someone away from society where they're no longer a threat to anyone. It's the same thing with life in prison. We remove the person to where they're no longer a threat. Now, I was listening to the radio and someone made an interesting point. He hopes that in 20 years, due to prison overcrowding or changing of laws, that he doesn't get parole early or be able to have a chance to be paroled to where he's released back into the public. I do not think justice was served in this case. because justice could never be served. There's nothing that could bring back the lives that were lost. There's no punishment, there's no justice to give back the innocence that was lost that day. So, is it fair that he gets to not have to worry about where he's going to live for the rest of his life? Maybe, maybe not. Prison is not a fun place to be in, from what I've been told. Neither is death penalty, but the death penalty, people don't suffer when they get put down because we have to be humane, because we got to be better than that as a civilized society. We just don't chop people's head off and hope that they die instantly, or we don't try to shoot him multiple times so he has to suffer. But that's not us. That's not United States penal justice system. So, of course, I will agree, regardless of the outcome, whether it was death penalty or life in prison with no chance of parole, justice will never be served. But at least he's not out on the street to threaten more people. And that's the best that we could ask for. With that being said, leave a comment down below on what your thoughts are. I'm interested to see if you kind of agree with me, or do you agree with the victim's family members, where they says this was an injustice. He should deserve to die and nothing less. Or do you kind of agree with me that neither decision is really true justice, but at least he's off the street? Let me know down below. And please smash the like and subscribe button on any all platforms, or just a platform that you're currently watching. But if you have kids, make sure you hug them. Tell them that you love them. And if you have a parent living with you and you're a kid watching this, tell them that you love them and give them a hug. With that, have yourself a wonderful day.